We're good to go.
Record. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody, to Unity and Diversity Virtual Town Hall, Episode 10. Today with us, we have Mrs. Patsy Austin-Gatson. She is a lawyer who has been practicing for over 30 years, and she's also the Democrat candidate for Gwinnett County District Attorney. My name is Lucas Joshi. I'm the co-founder and communications advisor for Unity and Diversity.
My name is Akil Taraga. I'm the co-founder and president of Unity and Diversity.
My name is Jalen Pettis, and I'm the vice president and communications head of UD.
So, Mrs. Gatson, let's go ahead and start by, let's just get a quick introduction from you and who you are, and all of that.
Okay. My name is Patsy Austin-Gatson. I am the Democratic nominee for District Attorney of Gwinnett County. I've been a 22-year resident of Gwinnett County. I've raised my children here. I have grandchildren here, and I'm totally committed to this county. We have one of the most diverse counties in the Southeast, and it is time for a major change right now in the leadership of this county. So I'm asking voters for their support. As I indicated, I am the Democratic nominee. I won the primary overwhelmingly, and I'm just appreciative for those that voted for me. For those that did not, I'm asking for their support at this point so we can be unified and take this office of district attorney at this moment, at this time.
Great. So basically, before we go forward into your issues that you're trying to address and whatnot,
Yes.
Why are you running for district attorney?
I feel it's time for a change. It's time for a new perspective in this office. I was involved with some of the marches that came about after George Floyd's murder. I spoke with a lot of young people in our county. And one thing that struck me immediately was when they said, we want justice and we want it now. It's just a moment in time that we are all transitioning into. Things have really changed and we cannot go back. We must go forward. And I feel that I am a new perspective on how criminal justice should be handled in our country. And I want to start with the District Attorney's Office of Gwinnett County. It is time to live it and walk it. We talk about reforming justice a lot, but exactly what is being done. So that's what I want to stand on. When I go into the District Attorney's Office in January of 2021, I will make major changes that address the issues that are before us.
So let's just go ahead and I guess we can get into that now. What are the most pressing issues that you've identified within the district attorney's office?
Well, just talking about our county, when you look at the issues of mass incarceration, and you look at the issues of the school to prison pipeline, and you look at exactly who is being penalized on a consistent basis, all you'd have to do is go to a calendar call in any one of our superior courts. And many times it is just about us. Now, I do believe that people have to be held accountable for any crimes that they commit. But I also want to be the person that brings fair legal justice to people. It has to be administered in a different type of way. A discussion came up during my time on this campaign trail about whether minorities, people of color are hit in a disparate way as opposed to whites in our county. And I submit to you that that is happening. We are looking at a situation in our county that has to be addressed, that has not been addressed up until now. Because if you don't identify what the problem is, you can't fix it. And our present DA does not identify it as a problem. And we've had discussions during many forums about what needs to be done. In the budget presentation that was done by our present district attorney some time ago, he indicated that he could not find Hispanic attorneys to work for him. And that to me smacks of something that as a people, as Black people have dealt with being told that they can't, that qualified Blacks can't be found. and it just smacked me in my face. I'm like, this is not right. So it is just time for a change, a new perspective. I think 27 years in one office unopposed is enough.
Ma'am. And you brought up a very good point. We're all for new perspectives. We're very open-minded people. And so we're just wondering, what reforms or what initiative are you going to take to basically make equal treatment under the law a bit better? And what reforms and initiatives are you going to take that Danny Porter is not taking right now?
Okay, I don't want to get combative immediately out of the box, but these are some of the things that I want to do is, and I've been saying this throughout my entire time on this campaign trail, I want to work with the community. I want juveniles not to come into the system. So I think that's going to be a community effort, is the things that we have to do to keep juveniles out of the system. I do not want to see them in the criminal system. So that's one of the main things that I want to work on. It just hit me in a way when I was on the campaign trail. I went to an event put on by the United Way. It was called State of Our Children in Gwinnett County, and how many of them are not reading at the level that they need to be reading at in certain grades, and how from there we go on to build prisons based on that. And I just feel as a society, we cannot sit for that. As a society, we have failed if that's how we are quantifying how we build jails. So a lot of things have to change. And I do believe it's a lot of interrelatedness with the school system, with the criminal justice system. We all have to work better together as a community. And I feel that Gwinnett County is poised to be one of the best counties in this nation, so we can show people how a diverse community gets it right. And that's what I will be working on. And I've already started working with different groups and things of that nature now, trying to work with our community to make it better for all.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so basically, and I think I also recall reading a statistic of 52% of kindergarten students are not ready for kindergarten. And
Correct. Yes.
And obviously, these are very pressing matters, pressing issues that need to be taken care of. But what exactly can the district attorney do in making these problems a bit better?
You can come out of that office and get busy, get to work. I think that when I was in school, grade school level, I remember, and this is a memory I've always had, we had firemen come to our school, and they made a statement to us as young children: if you don't smoke, don't start. Of course we didn't smoke, but that just stuck with me. It's like, if you haven't started smoking, don't start smoking. And I think that it's the same thing, making an impression on young people. When you have them, you have the ability to mold, where they're going, things that they're thinking. I think there's not been enough involvement with the school system, with young people, with our community, to bridge some gaps, so that there's not a situation where we have 52% of kindergartners that are not prepared. And I think as a community, we have to get it together. We have 15 public libraries in Gwinnett County. We have 2 boys and girls clubs. So we gotta, dig in, drill down, and make things better for families all the way around, so that we don't have a situation where 52% of kids are not prepared for kindergarten. That is just willfully failing. And we have to do better as a society. And I think that we can do it in Gwinnett County. There are a lot of agencies and different folks that are working out there trying to get it done. If we can all get on the same page and work together. As a district attorney, I think it's important to be in the community, speaking with people, bringing kids together, and just doing more to impact the society, not just sitting in your office racking up convictions. It's not just about that.
So, Mr. Getson, sorry, Jim, go.
So it's safe to say that community outreach is going to be a hallmark of, I guess, if you are elected DA, it'd be a hallmark of your tenure as DA, community outreach. Do you have any programs that you all have identified that you would be willing to work with to get out into the communities, things of that nature? And just another question, is it the DA's place to do that, or is the DA supposed to be focused on more the legal aspect or the community aspect? So there was kind of two questions in one. Sorry for that.
Well, I think the DA has to be concerned about the community aspect, because we're talking about bringing down crime. And the only way you're going to bring down crime is if you're out there and you're involved with the community. It's the same thing with community policing. You know, you don't want to just see a police officer when something's wrong. You want them out there engaging with the community. And that's the same idea that I will bring to the district attorney's office. I will engage with the community. People will know what's happening. I will be transparent. And I think it is the district attorney's that should be part of his job description, is to get out there and make things better for the community, because that's what it's all about. I mean, we don't want to just be in a situation that you only see an elected official when somebody's committed a crime. It shouldn't be that way. And I think it is a DA's responsibility to get out there in the community and make it happen. And I think it's even more important now that our community is so diverse, that the face of the office is seen in the community. And that will be mine.
And we all agree that community involvement, community outreach is very essential, basically. And you know, everybody, especially a lot of the teachers yesterday on Mr. Wilbanks' town hall, they basically wanted him to stand for them. And, you know, and honestly, that's his call. I mean, his job description doesn't require that. But honestly, at the end of the day, it's a personal choice, I feel like. But, you know, it's going to be good, of course, if you stand with the people, right? But here's my question. So the role of the DA, and I'm, you know, tell me if I'm wrong, but I remember it's recommending and basically deciding if criminal charges are against, you know, certain people that are accused, correct?
That's correct. I even brought, correct.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so I feel like why, and obviously any elected official it would be nice for them to be involved in the community, but why specifically a DA? Like what power would attaining the DA's role give you in getting involved in the society? Like anybody, like a sheriff can, you know, a superintendent can. Yeah.
Right. Even the sheriff's department has outreach parts of its job in the community. They have the explorers group. They have different things of that nature. As far as I know, right now, we don't have any of that when it comes from the DA's office. For example, in Fulton, they had something called an ambassadors program that young people were involved in. We don't have anything like that here. I know that at the state level, Judge South did what's called the SMILE program, and I got involved in that. Presently, I do work for the Gwinnett County Solicitor's Office, and there are things that we try to do there, just going out, meeting with the community, even at lunch feedings, reading to children, and letting them know they have a hope in the future. If it's not an elected's position to do that, then who is supposed to be doing that? The whole community has to be involved. If I'm being elected by my constituents and I want to make a good showing as far as my involvement with the community, I think that's a major responsibility.
Okay, so Mrs. Gatson, you just mentioned you've been with the solicitor office and you guys go out. Well, I know Walmart has been a big topic of interest for the solicitor's office. Working with Walmart, whether it be backing them up with the required masks inside the store or the crime rates of Walmart, right? Now, there's a Walmart right down the road from me on Highway 29. When I go there, a lot of times I see Lilburn police there. They're probably taking somebody in for shoplifting or just questioning somebody. And a lot of times I see youth involved with them, right? So obviously the solicitor office has more of a role in getting out there and working with those roles rather than the DA's office.
I don't really accept that as a premise. Not rather than, but maybe in conjunction with.
Yes, in conjunction with. Well, what has the solicitor's office been doing in order to get out to the youth, to work with them in order to prevent them from even thinking about that step before, before it got this late, right? Obviously, what was the solicitor's office doing before, Walmart issued a notice saying, hey, get your stuff together or else, there's going to be other action. What were the programs put in place?
Right. Basically, Brian Whiteside, he just went into office in the solicitor's office in 2019.
Okay.
He was elected in 2018. He went in 2019. Since that point, we have been engaged with youth organizations. For example, I was a youth coach at Berkmar High School in the Young Litigators program. So we've done things like that. We've also done reading programs during the summer lunches. We've done that. And we've also just tried to, make sure that people have what they need. We get a lot of citizens inquiries to the solicitor's office on
Well,
different areas. So we have done a great deal when that is, as far as that is concerned. We have done a few
so
things.
do you guys, with these programs that you have, what exactly is your role? Like, what is it doing? Before that, how long have you been with the solicitor's office?
Since Brian Whiteside has become the solicitor in
Okay,
2019.
so
Mhm.
since then, what has the role been of these programs? How are they getting out to these youth and actually, working with them one-on-one,
Mhm.
giving them other options rather than to steal, right? What are some of the programs that you guys may be pushing in
Mhm.
conjunction with other community organizations or whatnot?
Right. Well, we've been involved with community groups like the NAACP, and we've also done the career days at the schools, at middle schools, at elementary schools. So we've been out there in the community just to show that there is another option, that kids can look forward to doing more things than just, being involved in our criminal justice system. So we've done quite a few of the career workshops and the career days and things like that.
And do you guys give an option like for students, right? I know oftentimes transportation is a big issue for students and whatnot. Is there a way that the solicitor's office, working with other either county offices or private organizations, nonprofit organizations, is there something that's going on to prevent that, right? To basically give them more options rather than coming up with new excuses every time.
Mhm. Well, I think, we're at a juncture in our community where, well, COVID has been a problem, of course, now that so many things got shut down. But I think prior to that, we had really stepped into the community to do a lot of these things, for young people. And we've had student interns in our office to come in and do, probably, of course, not practice law, but just to come in, maybe shadow attorneys as they go about their function during the day. So we've had youth come into our office. And I think that's the primary area, besides going out to the career days and things like that. We've had youth come into the office as, interns, even high school students.
Well, I know the Gwinnett County District Attorney's Office currently, Mr. Danny Porter's office, they have a volunteer program. They do let volunteers come in and work with them. And I know they also do shadowing programs. How will you be, if you do become district attorney, how will you further expand that program, right? I mean, you just brought up these points, but they're sort of happening with the district attorney now. Not many people might know about them, but there's a lot of programs that are there. How will you?
Well, then that would be a problem. If not many people know that they are there. I guess I would expose it.
But it might not be, getting to every student, but I know about it, right? So I'm
Yeah.
sure other people also know about it.
Mhm.
For those that don't know about it, right? What will you as a new district attorney actually do to push those programs further, right? I mean, I know every single program you just stated, right?
Mhm.
In some form of that, there's something in our county, right? There's something in our county of that form. What will you do to further actually push it, right? It's not not necessarily an act, but like push forward with it.
Right. Well, I will definitely have more exposure to it. I would put it on the platforms that the young people look at, on the Instagram platform, maybe even TikTok, but just to get the information out there to them that it does exist. I think that's critical. And through the schools, working through the schools and things of that nature, more boys and girls clubs, working with them. And like you indicated, transportation is an issue. There was one program that we worked with that had a van. So just getting people together to coalesce and be creative on how you involve the youth in our community. I think that's key. I mean, you can't give up. You got to move out there, get in there, drill down and make it happen. And that's what I'm all about. I'm determined to make that happen.
So I just kind of want to transition, I guess, more towards a legal side.
Yeah.
So I know another hallmark of your campaign, you wanted to decrease recidivism and obviously increase rehabilitation efforts. So what's your plan if you do become DA to decrease recidivism and help citizens get more services when they return to the community?
Mhm. That is critical. We do have some programs now, but that mainly is at the state level. It's called GRIP, and they're doing a tremendous job. I would work really hard to expand programs like that to people coming out of prison. I've met with the warden of the Department of Corrections, Warden Johnson, and we have sat down and spoke about what needs to be done. We don't have a transitional house in Gwinnett County to transition people back, because if they're being sentenced out of our community, sent away, going to prison, one day they're going to come back. And when they do come back, we have to have wraparound services for them. They just graduated their second class in welding. And we have to give people skills, have them transition maybe 18 months before their sentences are up, have them transition into a transitional house that they can be there, they can go get training, they can come out of there with a skill set, so that now they have an opportunity, to use that skill set and not have to return to what they were doing before that put them in prison. So they will have a job.
Well, wouldn't that be more of the prison and our sheriff working in the jails to promote those programs rather than a district attorney's job?
No, I disagree. A district attorney's job is to fight for reducing, when you reduce recidivism, you're lowering the crime rate. So the job that we have to do as district attorneys is keeping our community safe. And that keeps our community safe when we don't have recidivism, when more crimes are committed by the same people. That when they come out of jail, they need help so that they don't return to jail. So that lowers the crime rate in our community. And that's about keeping the community safe. That's what a DA has to do. You don't just go in there and just get belt notches on how many people you convict. It's also about keeping the community safe.
Right.
And lowering recidivism will do that.
Yes. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, it's okay.
In terms of recidivism, if someone is a non-violent first-time offender, and you see potentially something in them that basically tells you that they're not mentally stable, are there any programs set aside for these non-violent first-time offenders to basically get better and not come back a second time and potentially get in more trouble?
Well, there is right now mental health court, pretrial diversion. But the issue I see what's happening with those programs is that they're not utilized at a high level. It's not a consistent basis where people are looked at. If it's nonviolent, a person needs help, either mental help or either with any types of drug addictions. That's what we should do. We should treat that problem, not criminalize it, not assure that people get criminal records or go away and they don't have any help. We have to work harder as a community to make sure that those things are handled, that people that have mental issues are getting help. And even before it comes to the criminal justice system, once again, that goes back to the community. What are we doing to help families that know they may have someone in their household that has a mental problem? Are we just waiting until 911 is called to deal with that? Or are we doing something ahead of time, being progressive, being creative, thinking outside of the box? And I think that has to happen now. And I think you need I have a new perspective on how we can do all of these things as a community. I will be working with those agencies that exist now that do it. And
Right.
then from there, we can expand out. There are so many grants that's written down, to help out with different community issues. I'd be working on getting monies into the community that can help deal with those problems. And right now, I think it's even more important now to have someone in place that's willing to think outside of the box, because we have issues economically in the state that's going to, freeze up some of these funds. But now we have to get out there and really push.
So in basically in accordance to some of the places that may not have the best public schooling system, and a lot of the children, the students are drawn to illegal activities. Are you planning on implementing any programs specifically directed in the schools to these people that need help?
Well, I found out since I've been on the campaign trail that the district attorney's office receives a form called the DA form. And that basically is coming directly out of the schools when someone gets into types of trouble and disciplinary action in the schools. And I think that can be used for something good. For example, if they are at high risk of having issues down the road, then we need to get in there, meet children, their families, get them on the right path, have programs for them. When I was coming up, I was considered an economically disadvantaged youth. And with that, there were certain programs and there were certain job programs that they would do, even if it meant tutoring, elementary school children and whatnot. You get a little paycheck. That helps out. That helps out a family that's struggling. That helps out that student that may not be able to purchase the things that their peers have. So yes, I think that's imperative that we have something set up in Gwinnett County where children or teenagers that are showing signs of issues have a program that they can feed into, that helps them, that directs them. Because I'm the first college graduate in my family. So basically, if you weren't shown that there's a way that you can, dig out of situations, then you're going to have a situation where teenagers are hopeless. They're thinking that there's nowhere for them to go. And I do take my hat off to what you guys are doing. You are an example. You are a model of where the kind of life that you can take hold of, and you all are doing it. So I'm very proud of what you all are doing, because you're helping. You may not know it right now, but people are looking at you right now and looking up to what you all are doing right now. So as a community, I think that those DA forms can be used to start a program where we do focus on youth that are in trouble now, that are going down the wrong road, and redirect them back so that they can have hope in a future.
And yes, ma'am, I completely agree. Community outreach is very essential. But practically speaking, you can't go to like every single school many days at a time and basically talk to students, because you have your duties as well. Do you basically have any sort of community outreach team, especially with the youth, that you plan on directing these mental health programs and whatnot? Because honestly speaking, it's only the youth that can influence the youth. At the end of the day, everybody just wants to listen to their friends, especially in high school.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do have some youth that I have. I mean, that's very important. Right now in my campaign, I have at least 3 youthful persons helping me. And I don't know what I would do without them. They're very instrumental in helping me. And I also have, my children and people that I know. You have church groups, you have, groups of teens that are out there. You even have the people that started the marches in Gwinnett County, at Lawrenceville, in Duluth. So I have, talked with them, reached out to them. And I do agree with you. They need to hear that from guys like you, things that they can look forward to, things that they can do to further their lives and have a good life.
Okay, so I kind of still want to stick within the legal side. This is kind of going in another direction now. So the question is, do you support the death penalty?
Well, I look at it like this. I don't personally support the death penalty. I don't. But for me to just stand there and say, I will never use it, I can't really say that because I think that there's been too many instances where there have been wrongful convictions. And if someone is wrongfully convicted and then they're executed by the state, there's no going back. So personally, I am against the death penalty. But I won't sit here and say that I will never, ever use it because there may come a time that the community will demand it. Something really atrocious it's atrocious when anyone is murdered. But you might be looking at a situation where somebody walks into a church and kills 20 people. So to say that I would never impose it, I can't sit here and say that that would never happen because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know that. But personally, I am against the death penalty.
So what, I guess, would be the criteria that you would consider when you would seek to impose a death penalty?
I think with consultation with my team, also looking at what the issue is, what harm that was done to the community, and if there's any doubt as far as the guilt of the person. And in addition, if there's any way the person could be rehabilitated. Because you have a situation where you have some people that commit crimes and have no remorse. Then they're not going to change. And if they ever see the light of day, they'll do it again. So it's that's a very deep question. And it really does hit very deeply with me because that's a very grave state power is to execute someone. When I first started working in the Attorney General's office, I went up to see the actual electric chair where people were executed. And they had a listing. They don't use the electric chair anymore, of course, but they had a listing of the people that had been executed in that chair. And it was very chilling. It made me feel like those people were there in the room with me as I read off them being executed. There was even somebody on that list because there was a robbery executed. So it just hits really hard with me. I would not want to impose the death penalty because there's been so many people that have been through it and it's been unjust.
So, Mrs. Gatson, let's move on from the death penalty. Do you believe that politics matters when it comes to our judiciary system? Do you feel like the D or the R really makes a difference when you're a district attorney? Right now, obviously, policy-wise, conservatives and liberals, rightists, leftists, they have much different views on everything. But do you personally, as a potential future district attorney, do you feel like that D or R in front of your name will affect your decisions?
Well, not that would affect my decisions whether I'm a Democrat. I am a Democrat. I've always been a Democrat. But I do believe that you have to look at the values. My value is to make change in the system. The system needs to be changed. And it's not just tinkering around the edges. The system needs to be changed because it is disparately impacting Black and brown people. at a disparate rate, and that's not right. And it's got to change. And I think that that is one of the differences between the D or the R. I don't think a lot of Republicans feel like there's any problem. And I don't think they really feel like there's been a disparate impact. What you hear back is, well, don't commit crimes. But it's not just Black and brown people committing crime, even though a large percentage of the folks in prison are Black and brown people. And, you know, that goes back to policing and policing discretion and our communities being over-policed. So I think that's where the difference is. From a policy standpoint, they don't believe that there is an issue. And I
Well,
believe that there is an issue because I am a Democrat. I see it differently.
So I know in what you said that we needed to change the system, right? Which is pretty broad because obviously
Oh, yes.
the Justice Department in the US is one of the oldest in the world and one of the largest in the world. So how would you, as the district attorney, if you were elected, how would you work to begin that change? What would you
Well,
do that would be different? That would be,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we all realize change is not easy. And I don't think it will be an easy walk to get that done. But I heard something that really shook me recently. And we have about 2.1 million people incarcerated in the United States. And I was listening to some folks from the Vera Institute, and they were talking about that. And they said the issue with the criminal justice system is that people just tinker around the edges. And if that continues happening, if we're not willing to go way out and change it, then in 50 years, we'll be having the same conversation again, and there'll be 4 million people in jail. So I think I'm going to have to work with the legislators of our state because there are a lot of laws on the books that are antiquated. And I think that we're going to have to work with being able to have people, and this is happening, it has happened now with the misdemeanor charges, that they can be wiped away after a certain period. So I think we need to do the same thing with some felony charges so that when people do come out of the system, they've paid their debt. Let's let them vote. Let's let them work. Let's let them move on. So it is going to be a big change, but I cannot do it by myself as a district attorney. The legislators have to change laws. And I think they have to hear from the district attorneys that are responsible for enforcing the law, talk with them about what needs to happen, what needs to change. We don't want to go in a reverse cycle. We want to make sure that the laws are coming up to date. We want to work with the legislators. We want to work with the community. We want to establish wraparound services for people once they do get into trouble so that the families receive help. And it's even more important in this county. We are a very diverse county now. So it's time that we have the services and things that we need to keep our community safe.
So you mentioned like twice about laws that were antiquated, things of that nature. So actually, that does bring me to a question. Are there any criminal offenses that you believe that should be decriminalized?
Well, I think we really have to look at and stop playing around with the edges on that issue. I think that we have to look at whether we want to keep locking people up for using marijuana, you know, for having a drug problem. Do you want to keep locking people up for that? And I submit to you that at a certain point, we have to take a look at that, make a determination how our society is going to handle it and move on it. I don't believe that we should. I do not believe that we should. And another thing that we need to look at is how we handle probationary issues. Because basically, when probation comes about, that is really overloading our system when probation is taken away. And if there's any things like that, we need to deal with it. We need to make sure that with citizens arrest, that's not happening as much because that's causing people to get killed. So there are a lot of things that we have to work with what we have, of course, but we have to change it. It has to be changed.
So you said that you don't want people locked up just because they're smoking marijuana, because I mean they probably need help. Whereas, you know, locking them up will,
Yeah. I
yeah.
think marijuana, I kind of put it in a sense on the same level as alcohol.
Mhm.
In that sense, you have people that are alcoholics and they need help.
Right, right, right.
But at the same time, you can't let them run loose and, you know, kill people,
Yeah, and
driving vehicles. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And using marijuana as an example, though, I don't think, in essence, the action itself requires jail time. I agree. However, if there was a person who widely sells marijuana to a lot of other people, that can basically it is a gateway drug. I mean, like, you know, it does have serious effects on memory and many other things.
Mhm.
If one person is enabling this much, you know, a spread this vast to a lot of other minors, for example, do you think the whole they should probably get locked up idea changes, especially from a drug dealer's point of view?
Well, if they're trafficking,
Mhm.
then that's a whole different thing. Yes, they'd have to look at me a lot. It's not legal,
Yeah.
you know, but at some point I would think the state might want to consider it, because I believe it's legal in about 11 states right now in the United States. And I presume that those states are making tax dollars off of that. So that
Mhm.
might be something down the road. I think it's a long way away in Georgia that we might want to consider.
So you would wait on legislation before changing any policy, or so would you wait on the legislation to come through before you change any the county policy on, I guess, marijuana arrests or convictions, things of that nature, or would
Well,
you?
right now the county can't really do anything with like an ounce or two of marijuana. Can't really do anything with it. So in that sense, I guess that it's decriminalized in a great sense, because we can't prosecute that. Because right now there is a test, but they're not, the GBI labs are not going to test anything under a certain amount of ounces. They're just not going to do it. So we can't prosecute those cases now. So as far as going forward, I think as a society, we have to make that decision how we want to handle marijuana. Will it be legal in Georgia?
And
No,
and
this-
I yeah, go ahead, go
Okay.
ahead. You're good, you're good.
So House Bill 213, how do you feel like that made a difference?
House Bill 213 that did what? Legalized
It was the hemp bill.
on the misdemeanors?
It was the hemp bill.
The hemp bill. That's a problem. That caused a problem because they can't make that distinguishing thing. It's the same plant and they can't distinguish it. And GBI has a test, but they will not test anything under, 2 ounces.
So do you feel like the hemp bill, House Bill 213, do you feel like that made any difference? That was the original question was, do you feel
Yeah.
like it made a difference in the type
It
of
definitely did. It definitely did, because apparently hemp is something that has an economic advantage, using the hemp to do different, whatever they do with it. I'm not sure exactly what they do with it, but it's a raw resource that they use, and it's an economic base, and they wanted people here in Georgia to be able to farm it, use it, sell it, whatever. And I think that's important. And I think they're going to have to do the same thing eventually when it comes to marijuana. The THC levels, that's really the only difference. You can't distinguish. It's from the same plant, the cannabis. So they can't really distinguish it. And I think that was a bill that now pretty much allows for recreational use of marijuana.
Just sticking within the bounds of, I guess, really we're talking about what would happen when people come through the Gwinnett County judicial system. gonna kind of focus on poverty now. So are you concerned about the criminalization of poverty?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Um, as far as a cash bail is concerned, if two people have done the same crime, they set a bail. One person can afford to make bail, the other person can't, but they're not convicted of anything. It's pre-trial. And I believe in that case, there goes, if there's a situation where a person cannot afford bail, they need to be released on their own recognizance. If it can be shown that they're not a danger to the community, they're not a threat to the community, and if it can be shown that they have significant ties to the community, then they should be let out on their own recognizance to come back. Um, Communities that have done that, it is no difference in someone having paid a cash bail versus um, let out on their own recognizance. They have the same amount, the same number of people. They will come back for trial. A cash bail is merely to guarantee your presence at trial. And communities that have done that more so over a broad basis have seen that there's no difference in people showing up for trial. So why are we doing it? So that is a big question. If they're in being locked up for a nonviolent offense, especially a nonviolent offense, and they have a job, they have significant ties to the community, then they should be let out. Why are we holding them? And then the problem that we get too is that sometimes people are being held for a year, something ridiculous, 2 years. They can't aid in the defense of their cases if they're locked up. So I don't think it benefits society just to lock people down because they can't afford a bail amount.
Of course,
Right.
and I understand why cash bail needs to be reformed.
Yes.
But what is the legal process in doing so, and which in turn also that reduces pre-trial detentions and whatnot. But what is the legal process of it?
Well, I think it's right now the judges will set the bail amounts. So there's limited as far as felony cases, that's somewhat limited. But I think if the citizens demand that more be done ahead of time, that you're not just locking people up repeatedly that have not been convicted of a crime, I think that that's what we have to do as elected officials. Even judges are elected. So if there's pressure put on elected officials to reconsider how we incarcerate people prior to a conviction, that seriously has to be looked at. We have to seriously consider what we are doing. And although the judges do it, definitely from the district attorney, we can recommend bail amounts. And then I think you have to look at what a person can afford. And you have to just deal with it. If it's a thing of we're worried about that they may be a threat to the community if they're let out prior to trial, then that's a different ball of wax we have to consider.
So obviously, this all comes into the sorry, Lokesh. This all comes into the field of making sure people's right to trial and improper incarceration are protected. So, what else would you do to ensure that defendants' speedy trial rights, excuse me, are protected, particularly for those who are being held in jail?
Well, I think we have to take an analysis on how many people are being left in jail, can't get out, and just do something that will help people a little more. I think that someone needs to be out of jail in order to really aid in their defense. And as the state prosecutor, which is what the district attorney's office is, we do have a obligation to make sure that justice is reached. We're considered what they call ministers of justice. And we do have a very high calling to deal with. You know, sometimes it's very hard to make cases but that's not strictly what we are there for, just to get convictions. We're there to do justice.
And how do you plan on working with our police departments, right? Obviously, a major part of the district attorney's role is
Yeah.
looking over police reports, based off of which you'll file charges oftentimes. How do you plan on working with the GCPD and the GCSO in order to make sure that our county is like there's less wrongful convictions, there's less arrests to begin with, and just basically overall less chances for your office to prosecute somebody, file charges against somebody?
Do you mean as far as what the role is of the district attorney's office working with policing
No, I mean,
agencies?
what I mean is you guys get reports based off of which you guys look into, you guys read the reports, and then you usually file charges based on what's there and what evidence you provided, correct?
Yeah,
That's
mhm.
overall the role of the district attorney. Now, how will you as district attorney work to ensure that you can cut down on the amount of cases that are brought to your office to begin with? Working with our police department, our sheriff's department, even local city police departments like Lilburn Police, Novo Police,
Mhm.
how will you work with them in order to ensure that from the beginning they're not bringing people in for small reasons, for reasons that don't really need arrest, but rather
Mhm.
maybe therapy, maybe some sort of rehabilitation along those lines?
Well, I think there has to be a partnership between the policing agencies and the district attorney's office. Basically, district attorneys do go out and they do help in investigations. So I think that is one important thing. And as a district attorney, there also will be many opportunities to speak with the line officers, maybe at their academy, even at the academies and the roll calls there. And as police are starting out in the field of policing, and speaking with them about how we have to work together, we have to interact. But as I indicated earlier, we don't want over policing in just certain areas. And because it's not a thing of, I think more Black and brown people get arrested for the same charges that, whites are doing, just at the same rate, if not higher, but more of us will get arrested. So I think it's an issue of sensitivity, bias training, all of that has to be done. And we have to work even harder now as a society. And I'm glad that we're at the point we are at in our society, where people are really looking at the institutions critically. Because if we can't critically look at what we are doing, we can't change it. So that's what we have to do. We have to drill down, look at what's wrong, and be determined to fix it, to get it right. And I believe that the district attorney's office, of course, has to work with these policing agencies to get it right.
So you clearly and also like over policing is an issue. And so basically, what will you be doing with this partnership with the GCPD to basically ensure that there's a filtration system of some sort before these cases are actually brought into your office?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think right now, I think Gwinnett County probably does a decent job at that. My work right now with the solicitor's office, we get to do, it's the same process where we review the police reports and things like that. Typically, they do a decent job at analyzing what happened and what should go forward. And when we do see cases where it's not a viable case, it can be dismissed right out. And the same thing, with the district attorney's office. If it's not a viable case, the case can be dismissed without having gone very far at all. And that can happen very early on in the process.
When you're doing your recommendations, how do you exactly pinpoint who needs mental rehabilitation and who doesn't? Because at the end of the day, we can only see what happened. We can't see motive. And that's very hard to basically track down. So what is your thought process basically in separating someone who is sane and committed a horrible crime, but someone who is maybe not so well mentally and who committed the same crime?
Well, I think you have to look at the background to see whether there's any mitigating factors with that individual. I think that should be par for the course practically on any crime that you look at. You have to look at a person's background, where they're at, what their history has been. I was just reading an article recently about how foster care children get involved at a really high rate in the criminal justice system. And I think, those things that happen like that, we have to look at it. We have to have some kind of grace and mercy when it comes to how you deal with people and where they have been in order to correct where they are going. Because like I said earlier, we have to hold people accountable for what they do, for crimes that they commit. We have to do that. But at the same token, we have to look at what they are dealing with.
And all kind of falls under the veil of rehabilitation. Obviously,
Mhm.
sentencing, getting people off the streets who don't need to be on the streets in the first place is a part of it. And obviously, people need to atone for the crimes that they have
Correct.
committed.
Correct.
But rehabilitation obviously is a very big part of that, because if we want to decrease recidivism, we have to actually rehabilitate the people who we are charging and putting in jail. So, in terms of rehabilitation efforts, what would you specifically be looking at to do if you became DA to increase rehabilitation, to make the system that we already have better?
Mhm. Mhm. Well, if I had my way, I think we would approach it totally different, because it used to be at some points during our history, we would look more at um, punishment versus rehabilitation. And we've kind of gotten away of rehabilitation. We've kind of gotten away from that totally. And I don't think there's enough of that happening. But I think that, there are tons of community programs that we can send people to. I'm looking at right now how the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office does their job. And what they look at is if somebody's going to get probation for a charge, they look at whether they need their GED. They look at whether they need job training. They look at what resources a family might need to shore them up better. So I think we need to do more things like that instead of just sending people out and saying, okay, you're going to get this penalty, instead of looking at where that person is at and what we can do as a society to make sure we don't see them again.
Well,
And yeah, you can go ahead.
go.
Okay, so backtracking just a little bit, we're still talking about rehabilitation and whatnot. And you said you did bring up background checks, and that's actually a very efficient way to basically see that, okay, this person might need some help mentally. So, but what if it was a first-time violent offender, and that basically didn't really have anything previously to basically put him in that place? How do you approach that? Because sometimes correlation is different from causation. Sometimes there's no correlation at all. It's a very difficult case. How do you tackle those very hard cases?
Well, I think you have a first-time violent offender, you don't want to give them a chance to be a second-time violent offender. That's what we have to deal with. We got to make sure, if it means that they have to go to jail because they hurt someone, then they have to go to jail. Because you don't want to let someone out and then they turn around and kill somebody. And then what happens with that is then there's no accountability. The system failed society at that point. If you know that someone is violent and you let them back out and they do it again, what are we saying? So we can't allow that situation. We have to, if someone's violent, I think we have to put them in jail. And hopefully once they get in jail, they can drill down and find out maybe why this happened, what can be done to prevent that person from doing it again, what kind of therapies do they need. And I know that's not really happening a lot in jail, but hey, I mean, you all will be taxpayers. And I think that, the citizens are going to have to demand that more be done than just warehousing people, because that's not changing anything. We just warehouse people, someone that has been violent. We don't give them some type of therapy or something. Then if they ever get out, that person will probably do it again.
Well, Mrs. Gatson, I know you just brought up programs. The Gwinnett County Sheriff's Office and the Gwinnett County Jails has a series of jail programs. I'm sure you're aware of them, being a
Right.
part of those
Right.
office. You just mentioned new programs. Are new programs really necessary with the programs already in place? Right? There's always that option of reforming a program, working with the other agency to bring reform to actually add new things. I mean, I know the current like there's Operation Second Chance, for example, right? There's the Jail Docs program. There's many. I'm aware of many programs there. How will you work with other organizations, and just not county like government run organizations, but also faith related organizations, right? The county has religious service programs in the jail for inmates to gain that insight, right? How do you work with environmentalists? I know they have the Fresh Start Garden program in the Gwinnett County Jail. How will the district's attorney office work with all those agencies along with our sheriff's office and our police department to basically further expand those rehabilitation programs already put in place?
Well, I think the bottom line to that is money. How do we expand it? It's going to cost. And each agency has a budget. And I think that you got to put your money where your mouth is. If you want to make it better, then we have to allocate some of the budgetary funds toward those programs to expand them, to make them more expansive, and to just make sure that more people have access to it. So I think that's important to do. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. And I do appreciate what you are saying as far as that there are a lot of programs. We don't have to reinvent it. We just have to make it work more efficiently.
Absolutely. And obviously you're aware of defund the police. Do you feel like defund the police movement really helps in everything that we just talked about with the rehabilitation programs and everything else? Do you really feel like that's an appropriate movement for our county, our programs?
Well, when they say defund, they don't really mean no police, because I was just listening to our program recently that talked about the communities that are hit more with crime. They need to police even more. So the key is not to defund them, but just to make sure that police have what they need to be responsive to the community. For example, we do ask police to do a lot. Maybe we need social workers riding with them. Maybe we need more funding for the police so that they can do what they're being asked to do. They can't do everything, but we do need to get more money in there where it benefits the community more. So I think that's what defund the police means. Let monies that are going to the police, let it benefit the community, not just police the community. So I think that's probably, I think the name is like a misnomer, but it is what, I don't want to say it is what it is. I may sound like somebody else, but I just think that we have to be more creative and look at what police are actually called to do, and look at whether that's what we want to call them to do. I mean, personally, I am an advocate for psychological exams, because what happened to George Floyd was a lack of humanity. And we don't want police that are working that have no kind of empathy for people. We need to have them more engaged with the community so that they don't feel like it's us against them. So, there's a lot of things that we have to work on in this society. And I feel very hopeful. I think that we can make it better, but we need people in office that have a new perspective and a fresh perspective on what we are doing.
Yeah, it kind of ties where we're about to go. I know we're pretty much on time now, so I'm gonna start wrapping up. So really the last big question I got to ask is why you? Why should we vote Patsy Austin Gadsden?
Well, I think that I've done a lot in my career that prepares me for this. My Bachelor's of Science degree out of Emory University was human development. And little did I know that I'd be headed down this path. I always wanted to be an attorney, but I always wanted to be an attorney that fought for justice, and I've done that. I think my clients down through the years always felt like I was with them. And I've gotten such titles as like Bulldog, and I wouldn't let it go, those kind of things. And I just think that at this point, the why me is because I feel I have the right temperament. I feel I have dimension in my life. I have raised 2 young men in my life. I have grandchildren that I want this county to be ready for. I don't want them to have to fight the fights we are fighting now. So I think that I have the right assets. I think I can be an asset to the county and being the next district attorney. I will be the first female. I will be the first African American. I think even just to be the Democratic nominee is historical because that has not happened. So I think that at this point, people are ready to turn the page just for new perspective, and just how someone that really feels for the community can make that change. So that's why I'm asking for the support from the community to aid me, to be with me, to let's walk down this road together and let's get the job done.
And we truly appreciate a community-oriented person that stands with us. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on here and talking with us. I know obviously time is limited, but thank you for taking the time, especially to connect with the youth right now. It's obviously so important with this next upcoming election. So again, thank you on behalf of all of us, and just like to thank you for coming on.
All right, I appreciate y'all. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you. Yeah, with that being said, Virtual Town Hall episode 10 comes to an end. Thank you everybody who watched, and thank you Ms. Patsy Austin Gadsden for coming on. Yeah, tune in to Virtual Town Hall episode 11 coming soon. All right, thank you.
Bye now.
Thank you.